Okay, video 2. We've looked at what the data is. We've looked at how we go through it to get the information. Now we need to write the program to do it. So let's see. Let's process the school roster, and we're going to say student. Actually, it's student IDs by social security numbers is what we're going to generate from. I don't know if parse is the right word there, but and ideally I would pass in the path name to the file. Yeah, we'll pass it in. So it's data slash school roster.csv, right? Yep, okay. So that's the first thing to write. Def parse school roster, and that's the file name. So, well, we'll just start off by opening the file, right? Open file name. Would help if I spelled it correctly. As in file. Reader equals csv.reader in file. And you notice I've got a red squiggly there. I don't know how well the colors show up, but that's because I haven't imported CSV. So let's remember to import CSV, which gets rid of that squiggly. The orange squiggly is because I haven't used that variable. Well, it says it pops up when I run the mouse over it. Okay. So I have to skip the header line, right? Now I say for row in reader so all I'm going to do right now is I'm going to print the row and break because I want to see what data I'm working with. I could look at it in the debugger, or this way I can just run it. Okay. So that's the first row out of the reader. I can see I've got last name, first name, class level, student ID, SSN. And SSN is kind of, and I'm sorry for those who are not U.S. citizens, social security number to me is just SSN. The only pieces of data we really care about here are the SSN and the student ID, because as it turns out, first and last name is not unique. There are probably over 100 carry abetas in that file because of my software was so limited. We don't care what grade level she is. We just need to get her student ID associated with her social security number, because we can look her up in the census data by her social security number, and we can get her GPA using the student ID. So we're going to say and I'm going to avoid using the same variable name here just to emphasize the fact that I'm creating a local variable which I'm going to return, and it'll get copied into this variable. But those names can be different because this is inside this function. So I say students sub so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, because I want it by social security number. So that's the key in the dictionary, equals row sub 0, 1, 2, 3. And probably now we should run it in the debugger just to see how that works, because we're going to want to do that multiple times just to make sure it's doing the right thing, right? So let's bring up my debugger here. Yep. And I want to break at line 14, let's say. Okay. I really should be doing this in VS Code, shouldn't I? Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not. I'm more comfortable with Emacs. So now let's see what students looks like. So there is Carrie's social security number and her student ID. And now if I look at students, I've got 2 keys. This is actually Timothy, if we remember from our test data. So it looks like this is doing the right thing. It's getting the social security number and the student ID for each student. Okay, so if we let that continue, program finished, good. And my debugger is a little squirrely, so I'm going to exit it each time instead of re-invoking it. Okay, so, one thing I forgot there. Right? If I don't return the value, it doesn't do me any good up here. Okay, so that's the initial data out of the school roster. Do we want to get... We could have calculated the GPAs on the fly there. Now let's do one thing at a time. So now we'll go back and we'll say student GPA by SSN. And there was a special file in data that I didn't point out. Here it is, course list. Course list tells us gotta spell everything correctly. It just tells us the names of all the classes. Alright. That's so you don't have to figure out how to get all of these files. So this will pass in course list.csv. Okay, so now we need to write read classes. Actually, let's call this calculate GPAs. I like that name better. So calculate GPAs. All right. Oh, I need to pass in one more thing. I need this student IDs by SSN, because I'm going to walk across that list. And I'll just call it student IDs here. Okay, so now I'm going to say for SSN in student IDs student ID equals... Is this really how we want to do it? No. First off, I want to read in all of the classes. Alright, sorry. With open file name. Whew, let it complete so it does it correctly. As in file. I like those names. Reader. And remember, there's no conflict between this reader and this reader because they're in different functions. csv.reader in file. For it didn't really need to be a CSV reader. Oh well. No, I'm going to call this row because it's a CSV reader. In reader course name equals row sub 0. Now I need to go through the course and get the GPAs. This is all going backwards, isn't it? That's all right. Student GPAs is going to be an empty dictionary, and it's going to be keyed by student ID, and it will have list of grades. Okay? So it's really not student GPAs, it's really student grades. Okay. With open, so I need an F string here because I need to create a path. So it's data slash course name dot CSV as course file. I haven't used that variable name, have I? No. Okay. Course reader. So now I do have to worry about, I can't use the variable name reader twice. I have to use course reader here. Equals CSV dot reader course file. And I forgot to skip the header there. And I need to skip the header here. So now I can say for row in course reader we're going to do this again, which means I need to get rid of this partial code down here. So I just want to see what I've gotten at this point. So I say school. So I broke out of this loop, but I didn't break out of this loop. So this got the first line of each course. But I can see the line is student ID and grade. So what I'm going to say is if, and let's unpack this one, okay? We'll call it student ID grade. SID for student ID. I know that's not very good, but all right. If SID in student grades sub SID dot append grade. So we'll add it to the list if there's already a list for this student. If it's not in the student grades, then I need to say student grades sub SID equals list grade. So I need to create a new entry in the list. Okay, so that will get all of the grades. Now we need to go through okay. So now we need to say for SSN in student IDs, because that's the parameter that was passed in here. Student ID equals student IDs sub SSN. Because when you loop over a dictionary, I don't remember if I've commented on this before, what you actually get is the contents of the dictionary. If SID in student grades okay, just a moment. Getting called for dinner. So let me finish up calculate GPAs and we'll break this video. Yeah, just a minute. I'll be there. So GPA equals student grades sub SID so I need to sum that divided by the length of student grades sub SID. So obviously I could have put that in a temporary variable. Now I need to say this is my return dictionary. So return dictionary sub SSN equals GPA. And so now when we're done, we can return the return dictionary. Okay, so let's run that under the debugger and see if it's doing the right thing. So we want to break at 15. Okay. So now we're going into a course. Obviously the first time student grades should be empty, right? It is. So we skipped this one where it exists. We go down to this one where we're starting a new entry. And now student grades has that student ID and that grade point average. Okay. Or that grade for that class. I'm sorry. And so what's going to happen here, oh, it didn't next 100 times. I thought that would go next 100 times. So in this class, everybody's going to be new. And that'll happen for the first few courses we go through probably. So if I type student grades here, now I find I've got a grade for each one of these. But if I break at 29, continue, now if I look at student grades, oh, that's a lot to print out. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so we can see we've got a student ID and then their list of grades. All right. So now we create the return dictionary. So now I get the student ID and I've got the SSN. So if it's in there, which it should be, but I like to have that check anyway. So let's look at student grades sub, what was our S? So that gives us that. So we expect the GPA to be somewhere around 2.7, I think, 2.6. So now we can see the GPA is in fact what? Oh, haven't executed the statement yet. I think it broke. My debugger broke. Alright. Well, we'll end here and we'll pick up in a few minutes.